Mars, the planet of action, energy, motivation, and drive, has been retrograde since December 6th, 2024. And when Mars is retrograde, we can often feel an inability to push forward like we normally do in some area of our lives. We can feel some frustration during Mars retrograde as it tends to be more difficult to initiate things. And if Mars is the gas in our tank, it can often feel like we're just kind of running on fumes. And for many of us, it might feel like we've just kind of been stuck in a funk, or really kind of just not like our usual selves. So the good news is that Mars is going to turn direct on the 23rd, and it's going to mark a distinct kind of change in energy. I'm Alexander Creek, astrologer and intuitive, and today in this video, we're going to be talking all about Mars going direct, what that means for you and your rising sign, and just a little bit about what to expect. So if you're liking what you're seeing, make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you turn on those notifications so you know when a new video drops. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Mars retrograde might be a signal from the cosmos for you to slow down and reconsidering where you're putting your efforts. And on the other hand, for some of us, it's been a time of hyper-concentrated effort towards some big project or some sort of area of our life. It's like you've been maybe spending a lot of time putting effort towards something. It's likely that might have been like a little bit frustrating, or it's maybe taking a lot of effort just to kind of move, to move the needle a little bit. And in more extreme cases, we might be also feeling some extra inflammation or extra irritation in some area of our lives as well, because Mars is not exactly a pleasant planet in astrology. It's a planet of war, conflict, heat, separation, inflammation, irritation. And so it's really been hanging around, especially while it's been in Cancer. It's been hanging out in the Cancer part of our chart for an unusually long time, because usually Mars will spend a few weeks in a sign and then move on to the next one. But because of this lengthy retrograde, it's really been hanging out in Cancer a lot. It's been and also it's been hanging out in Leo for some time too, but it's really like the Cancer part of our charts that's been kind of going through it. So again, like I mentioned, the good news is that Mars is going to go direct on February 23rd. So this is going to mark a distinct kind of flip in the energy, and gradually we're going to be really kind of getting back on track. So I'll tell you what that means for your rising sign in just a few minutes here. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about a little bit more about Mars retrograde, a little bit about like the history of this energy, so we can really get some good perspective on what we've been going through, what we've learned, and kind of what to expect going forward. So first, Mars went retrograde on December 6th in the sign of Leo. So that means that it's stationed retrograde in the Leo part of your chart. I use whole sign houses in my practice. So that means for me, like as a Scorpio rising, Leo rules my 10th house, which is career, which is my career goals, authority figures, my public and professional reputation. I cannot talk today. And for you, Leo is a specific life area, which I'm going to talk about when I get to the sign forecast. So station retrograde in Leo, and then backtracked into Cancer a month later on January 6th. So we've had this Mars retrograde across these two distinct areas of life. So these two different parts of our chart. So this Mars retrograde may have been about two like distinct separate topics for you. And a quick note before we get to these sort of rising sign forecasts, I do want to talk about Mars and Cancer specifically. When Mars went into Cancer, I do feel like this has been maybe a more challenging Mars retrograde for some of us, because Mars in astrology is technically in its fall. A fall is a type of debility in astrology where Mars can struggle a little bit in Cancer, or it's really kind of like an unconventional place for Mars to be. So Mars in Cancer, its energy and ability to act can be inconsistent, and it can also have trouble with its confidence when taking action. Mars in Cancer is a very emotional place for Mars to be. Mars is the planet of war and conflict and like fighting, and it doesn't necessarily love to be in an emotional kind of family oriented, domestically oriented sign, right? It's not its natural kind of happy home place. And oftentimes, like when Mars is in Cancer, if you have like Mars and Cancer in your birth chart, you might have a harder time like directly asserting yourself, because Mars and Cancer can often sort of like stew. It's sort of like the hot water that boils and then can explode at a certain point, because Mars is heat, Cancer is like water. So instead of just saying, hey, that pissed me off, Mars and Cancer might kind of ruminate on this for days and then they finally say something. So it can often have trouble with its confidence when taking action, or its energy ability to act can be inconsistent. Also because Cancer is ruled by the moon, the planet in astrology that is most about fluctuation and change. And because Mars is about motivation and because Mars is about like our motivation and energy, Mars being in Cancer for this long can really mean, especially since it's been retrograde, that our motivation and energy can fluctuate a lot, can fluctuate a lot more, these past few weeks and months. It's sort of like there may be days where we're good to go, where we're like, okay, let's get some shit done. I'm totally motivated. Let's do it. And then maybe, a few days after where we need extra recovery time. We need this extra rest time. We're kind of in our flop era, essentially, with Mars and Cancer. But I really do feel like this is sort of like a signal from the cosmos to really kind of stop and think about where we are putting our energy. Why do we do the things that we do? And can we go about, our goals shifting? It just kind of like a feeling, just kind of like a really kind of like a pause moment. So it's really kind of after February 23rd that almost like the new year kind of officially starts, that we can start initiating things again, that we can start taking action on things again and having like a little bit more success, or that we're feeling like we're going to make more progress. So after the 23rd, this does mark a distinct energy change as we start to get back on track. So projects that feel delayed may start getting back on track, and we're kind of slowly get our groove back. Our ability to act and take decisive action, that's gonna start feeling better too. Or we may even have more clarity on how we want to spend our energy. So the key word is slowly getting back on track here, as Mars is, when it changes directions, it can be slow to get momentum. Like it's gonna be kind of at that 17-degree mark, because it's been it's turning direct at 17. So it's like it's slowing down, stopping, and then slowly turning back. So it's really not until like mid-March that it really starts to pick up speed, and it really starts kind of moving forward through those degrees of the zodiac. So just know, yes, 23rd is when it changes directions. Yes, we're going to start to kind of get our groove back. It is going to take a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and talk about what you might expect for each rising sign. And I'm going to talk about Mars going direct in Cancer, as well as kind of going through Leo as well, because this is really kind of a two-part story here. So let's go ahead and look at it. Remember that if you're on YouTube, you can just click on the chapters and just skip ahead to your sign. If you're listening in the audio-only podcast version, you can look at those timestamps and look at that and zoom forward to your specific timestamp. So let's go ahead and look. Okay, and remember that these forecasts are going to be for the rising signs. It's going to be a little bit more accurate. If you want to blend your sun or moon with it, you can. I recommend listening for your rising sign first, and that's going to be dependent if you have an accurate birth time. So Aries rising, looks like we have Mars turning direct in your fourth house. Perhaps maybe you've been spending a lot of time like renovating the home, or hyper concentrating on efforts like with like land or property or real estate or things involving home. Perhaps there's been maybe more conflict or just stress involving home things. Maybe it's involving your family. Maybe it's things involving family or parents, or just maybe you're really trying to get your foundation together. But I do feel like these sort of martial topics are involving home and family and property things for you. Mars turning direct here means, maybe we can get these sort of home projects kind of off the ground. Maybe they go a little bit smoother. Maybe we can make these changes that we sort of want to make in home, or and honestly, maybe maybe Mars retrograde for you has just come with like a little bit more I don't know, stress. Mars occupying any house in our chart is not comfortable or pleasant. But whatever is happening here, it's like that may start to ease a little bit, and we may be able to kind of get things off the ground with Mars moving in our fourth house. Maybe it's conflict that we're needing to work out with family too. So this might be a better time to kind of approach those things, is Mars turning direct in that fourth house on February 23rd. Keep in mind, Mars is going to also go through Leo beginning April 19th as well. So for you, Mars is going to be entering that fifth house of romance, creativity, pleasure, children. So you'll be like revisiting some topics when Mars went retrograde in that part of your chart on December 6th. Maybe we're going to get some kind of creative fire back. Maybe there's things involving children or a child that we'll be revisiting around this time too. Or maybe it's just a great time, or maybe it'll just be a good time for you to kind of, like revisit that spark in a romantic relationship, or sort of put yourself out there with like dating, or just put more kind of physical energy into your creative or passion projects when Mars goes into Leo on April 19th. So let's look at Taurus rising now. Taurus rising, Mars is turning direct in your third house. Maybe there's been some frustration or delays or extra conflicts relating to maybe your daily environment, your daily routines, how you get from point A to point B. Perhaps there's been just some snags with transportation. Maybe you've been putting a lot of effort into like your communication projects, or learning something new, or working on something communication related. If there's been slowdowns in these areas. And also perhaps there's maybe been issues with like siblings or neighbors or people in kind of your sort of like immediate environment. Third house always involves like a lot of different topics. I would say these things start to kind of move forward. There's like a forward momentum and kind of getting your groove back when it comes to these specific things around February 23rd. That really starts to kind of get going in March. Perhaps it might be a good time to really kind of work on those communication projects, or to kind of get moving on those, or to take a class, or to sort of, to sort of get a certification, maybe plan a little bit of short distance travel. This would also be the time, if you've been thinking about like, I really need a new car, or like a new mode of transportation after February 3rd, it might be time to go ahead and like initiate that. Mars, and I would also say Mars being in your third house for so long, you may have had an emphasis on like, a little bit of fire in your speech, or, a little bit of edginess with your correspondence, really kind of like, Mars being in your third, this is sort of like words as weapons kind of. So there may have been a little bit of edge to your daily communications, since Mars has gone retrograde, especially since January. Mars is going to go into Leo on April 19th. And when it does, it's going to be revisiting your fourth house. So there may have been things that there may be things that you're going to be revisiting as far as taking action on home and family and property matters. Perhaps we were kind of thinking about like, should we change something about the home? Is there things that we need to revisit with family? Maybe more difficult kind of topics to broach, or sort of taking action on these things. We're going to be kind of taking these things on. And it's like, because we have like a better perspective and a clearer picture, we are going to be able to sort of take on these projects, or take on action with these when Mars goes into that fourth house on April 19th. And it will be there until mid-June. Gemini rising, Mars is turning direct in your second house. Perhaps there's been a little bit of delays or frustration, or just extra effort when it comes to finances and spending. Maybe finances have just been feeling a little shaky, or you're trying to figure out like a budgeting strategy that works for you. Perhaps you're really trying to make some more income, but it's been kind of hard. Maybe it's been going kind of slow. Maybe those topics for you have just been kind of, a little shaky. But Mars turning direct will help you bring in more income. It will help you kind of get your budget and finances kind of straightened out. Anything having to do with your cash, your assets, things like that. And really help you establish more security for yourself. Mars going through your second house during a retrograde can be really kind of frustrating, but I do see like you building momentum and being able to take decisive action with your finances after Mars turns direct on February 23rd, or you'll have more clarity around these topics in your life. Mars is going to enter Leo on April 19th and be there until about mid-June, which means that you're going to be revisiting some things as it concerns like your daily routines, your correspondence and communications, how you get from point A to point B, like your commute, how you think and how you reason. So there may have been the third house is always kind of difficult to delineate because there's always so many topics kind of within that. But know that Mars turned retrograde on December 6th in that area. So it can have something to do with car, commute, correspondences, learning or studying something, things having to do with the mind, or also can be having to do with like people in our lives, especially like siblings, neighbors, people in our kind of daily environment. There may have been like an issue that came up with one of those things around then, and you're going to be kind of revisiting that. You're going to be able to sort of progress forward in that area. So I could see travel for you. I could see just getting really busy in your daily sort of errands and commute, or learning something new after April 19th. And Mars is going to be in that part of your chart for about a month and a half. Cancer rising. Mars is going to be turning direct in your first house. So if you've been suffering a little bit, I will say with Mars in your first house, I will say maybe you've been learning about asserting yourself, asserting your boundaries. Maybe you've been feeling a little restless, a little irritated. And for some of you, Mars going through your first house of physical body has been a little rough. Mars can definitely be associated with like fevers and, just kind of irritation, and just maybe your health has been struggling a little bit. And, I would say that's probably on the more extreme end of things. But the first house, like your own sign, is your physical body and identity. So, that can be a really intense place to be feeling Mars moving through your chart. But Mars going direct on the 23rd, I think, is going to start to shift some of that. We might finally kind of feel like we're able to sort of move forward in our lives, that we might be able to sort of tackle and initiate projects. And, like we just might have like a little bit of fight back. Essentially. So if you've really been kind of questioning yourself, if you've been questioning your motivations, I think things should start to kind of straighten out a little bit. And especially when we get to April 19th, that's when Mars is going to be moving out of that first house completely. So, so that long period of Mars just kind of sitting in your first house, that planet of war, conflict, inflammation, it's just been complicated for you, I think. Mars is going to be moving into your second house of money and finances on April 19th. So remember, Mars turned retrograde in the same part of your chart on December 6th. So we're going to be kind of revisiting some topics, but we're going to be revisiting them with a lot more strength and power and perspective. So perhaps we're going to be getting our finances together. Perhaps we're going to be really kind of searching for more income, or figuring out what to do with our finances and income. Perhaps we're going to have like a better financial and sort of budgeting strategy. With Mars going through Leo direct this time, Mars will be moving through that part of your chart from April 19th through mid-June. Leo rising, Mars is turning direct in your 12th house. That is an awkward place for Mars to be. The 12th house has to do with our subconscious thoughts and beliefs, things that are hidden to us, hidden enemies, how we sabotage ourselves. Also, 12th house can be kind of chronic illness, like long-term health things or mental health things. So Mars being in that part of your chart for so long can definitely be like kind of an irritating influence, or even like a vaguely kind of anxious feeling. And it's really kind of stirring up a lot of, it's really maybe making you aware of like, I don't really know how to say this. It's making you maybe aware of how you are consciously spending your energy, and maybe what things in your life are detrimental to you. like things in your life that are detrimental to you that you maybe weren't previously seeing, but now is very kind of in your face. So Mars going direct here, I think is going to give you more clarity about these things. It may give you more clarity of maybe where and how you want to take action. And I just feel like if you've been feeling kind of just generally a little under the weather or a little stuck feeling, things are going to start to move forward. And also this is still a good time to Mars being in your 12th house for so long, like the cosmos might be asking you to get some alone time, to get some retreat time, to get some isolation, but it might be a lot of isolation. It might be like you might be feeling like a little bit cut off. So Mars going direct here, it's going to start to kind of move some things forward in your life. Especially when we get to April 19th, Mars is going to be moving into your sign. Keep in mind, Mars went retrograde on December 6th in your sign, in the sign of Leo. So you may have felt like it was a time to kind of step back a little bit, or, that maybe things were like a little bit harder to initiate, or there was maybe just like an extra sense of frustration or delay or an extra sense of conflict or fighting kind of like around you. With Mars moving direct through your sign, it's like, that's really kind of to me like a powerhouse energy. Like people are really going to kind of want to get out of your way. That's really a time for you to be, that have a lot of energy and action, and to really sort of take the lead and to initiate things in your life. Like this is really going to be like, I'm moving a car. I'm picking up a car because my child is sort of underneath it. Like nothing is going to stand in my way. So I think that's going to give you a lot of sort of superhero kind of strength. I will say anytime Mars is sort of moving through your sign, just be careful not to run yourself too ragged, because Mars can be inflammation and irritation. So just keep in mind, listen to signs from your body, like just know if you're kind of overdoing it or not. But generally, I think Mars moving through Leo, you're just going to be a lot more decisive on taking action on certain things in your life. So that is from April 19th through mid-June for Leo rising as well. Virgo rising, Mars has been retrograde in your 11th house since January in the sign of Cancer. So maybe there's been some things with like friends, irritations, frustrations with friends, with allies, with colleagues, people in your social sphere maybe kind of pissing you off, or maybe there's been just like a lot of activity, or maybe too much activity, or maybe feeling like you're having to sort of reconsider how you want to participate in various groups, how you want to participate in sort of society at large with Mars retrograde in your 11th. This also might be a time when you've been really kind of reconsidering what your sort of goals and hopes and wishes for the future are, kind of looking at things long-term and being like, what is it that I want to do in like the next few years? What is it that I want to sort of manifest, and kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit. So Mars is going to be moving forward in that part of your chart. There's still going to be, some conflict with friends and groups and allies and things like that. But it feels like you're going to be kind of straightening some things out, being able to take direct action in this part of your chart. This might be a better time to approach like a conflict, or, to be decisive about like, hey, you said this thing last week that did hurt my feelings and pissed me off. Let's talk about it, right? So that part of your chart is still going to have that kind of sharp martial kind of energy to it, but it's like you may be able to actually do something about it. And Mars will be moving through, and also I will say this is a time where you might be able to get more clarity on what your goals and wishes and hopes for the future are as well. So Mars is going to be moving through your, it's going to be moving through your 12th house beginning April 19th when it moves into Leo. So I'm going to say like that could indicate some more like additional recovery time. Because when Mars initially stationed retrograde for you, it did so on December 6th in your 12th house of isolation and rest in the subconscious mind, and like things that the 12th house is also ways in which you might self-sabotage, or things in your life that maybe you don't see that are actually detrimental for you. So Mars kind of moving through that 12th house really is going to give you an even more perspective or even more time on recovering, on rest, on like, it's like I just kind of see Mars going direct for you as not necessarily immediately like, I'm back in action, baby. Like I would say Virgo rising, um, throughout this spring, there's going to be a lot going on for you with these eclipses. So I'm going to say with Mars going direct, that especially in when you get to mid-April, like I would not force yourself to be doing all the things. Like you're still going to need to be getting some rest. You're going to need some you're going to need some sort of like alone time and rest. So definitely kind of a more complicated Mars direct story for you. But just know, I think I think ultimately it is beneficial. So Libra rising, Mars is going direct in your 10th house. So good news for you. That is definitely going to be, if you've been feeling like you've been kind of treading water in career or spinning your wheels as far as career, your public reputation, career goals, bosses, things that have to do with your sort of professional identity. This could be I feel like this is going to be a time for you where you're going to start getting your mojo back slowly, where you may have more clarity on where you want to put your energy as far as career, on what your career goals are. And you're going to be able to see these things with a lot more clarity. So that's going to be true. So you're going to be kind of revisiting a lot of these topics and and I just feel like you're going to start slowly getting your spark back. There also may have just been frustration or delays or extra conflict with authority figures, with career things, maybe with your job, since Mars has been retrograde. When Mars goes back into Leo, remember Mars went retrograde in Leo on December 6th. There may be things with like friends or allies or your social groups or professional organizations that you're going to be kind of revisiting. It could be that there's going to be a lot more action and energy involved in these different parts of your life. There also is a chance for maybe some healthy conflict. Also with Mars here, you may be really deciding like, do I want to be a part of these relationships anymore? Do I want to be a part of these groups anymore? Because Mars can also be about separation. So there can be, I think there can be some of those themes as Mars moves into Leo on April 19th through mid-June for you. The other part of that is you're going to be kind of revisiting what your goals and wishes and hopes for the future are when Mars goes into Leo. Like you may be able to just kind of see the bigger picture. You may be really able to see like what exactly you are wanting to sort of manifest and focus on as Mars moves into that part of your chart. Scorpio rising, Mars is going to be moving through your 9th house. Or it's going to be turning direct in your 9th house beginning February 23rd through April 19th. So Mars going retrograde in your 9th house has maybe been really helping you reconnect to your spirituality, to your personal philosophies, your politics, your why, essentially. It's like, why do I do the things that I do? What do I personally believe in? You may have had some frustration or delays or extra effort in things connected to publishing and media as well. Things connected to travel, things connected to education. There may be a lot of effort here, or just a kind of a lot of reconsidering. It's like, why do I do these things? Like, what am I getting out of this? Right. As Mars kind of starts to slowly move through, you're going to get your mojo back and a lot of things. If you're a teacher, let's say that you teach astrology, for instance, or teach spirituality, you're going to have a lot more energy to pursue these things. Like clarity of vision. Mars is going to move into your 10th house of career on December 6th. And not on December 6th. It's going to move into your 10th house on April 19th and be there until mid-June. So remember that Mars stationed direct in your 10th house on December 6th. So you're going to be kind of like revisiting some topics relating to career and your career goals. If you've been feeling dissatisfied but not sure where to go in your career, you're going to have a lot more clarity and really have the vitality and courage and power to make those decisions in your career, to be making some moves in your career. Mars retrograde is especially potent and important for Scorpio rising, as Mars is your traditional ruling planet. So you really may have been feeling a little bit lacking in vitality and personal, and like you may have been lacking in vitality and health and just feeling like you need more rest because Mars rules your physical body, as well as your sixth house of health and wellness. So it's just like you just may have been feeling a little like blah. But with Mars turning direct, you're really going to start to get your mojo back, especially when we get to mid-April, as Mars is going to be in a lot stronger of condition when it goes into Leo. So congrats to you, Scorpio rising. Sagittarius, Mars has been retrograde in your 8th house. This can definitely bring up some financial issues, frustrations, delays, just kind of sticky things involving other people's money and resources. So credit cards, loans, debts, taxes, grants, public funding, things like that may have been a little bit sticky or that you've been having to sort of contend with it. The 8th house is sort of like the intricacies and emotional dynamics of the relationships that we're in. So there could be like a deeper relationship stuff that you're kind of having to contend with here. It's a very sensitive cycle for you, I feel. Also, you could be dealing with some like emotional, kind of buried emotional trauma as well during this Mars retrograde too, because 8th house can sort of be buried trauma and emotional trauma that we're sort of, that we're kind of dealing with here. So I do feel like this is kind of like a tender time for you, even if there is like a financial stuff. Sometimes like a Mars retrograde through your 8th house, it just kind of feels like you don't have a lot of control or you don't have a lot of help. So Mars going retrograde here, I think you're gonna be able to resolve some of those situations. You're gonna be able to move forward on some of those financial situations or whatever, or however those 8th house topics apply to you. You're gonna be able to see the needle move a little bit and to see some progress. Mars will be moving into Leo on April 19th. And that's going to be when you're revisiting some sort of topic, because Mars went retrograde here on December 6th. So you were going to be looking, it's like anything connected to higher education, to travel, to spirituality, your philosophy. You're really going to be standing on your beliefs when Mars goes into Leo. We could be making travel plans. We could be, we could be taking action on things related to higher education, on things relating to publishing and media. It's kind of signaling that you're going to be putting a lot of effort into those areas. So I do see it as like if you were kind of questioning your beliefs or philosophy or questioning education or travel things or questioning publishing media things or how you want to move forward, this is going to give you a lot more, oomph to be able to sort of move forward on those things in your life. So April 19th is when Mars is going to go into that 9th house. And it's going to be there until about mid-June. Okay, let's talk about Capricorn rising now. So Capricorn rising, there's been maybe a lot happening for you as far as partnerships and relationships with this Mars retrograde. So maybe frustrations, delays, things to be worked out in your partnerships, maybe feeling like, just kind of uncomfortable energy. Mars is not comfortable energy, right? Maybe having to put sort of like a lot of effort into our partnerships to kind of keep the peace, or maybe we've been needing to sort of assert ourselves in partnerships. Maybe there's just been some conflict or just uncomfortable energy, right? So Mars is going to turn direct on the 23rd. So we might be able to sort of smooth out some of those issues or feel like things are starting to move forward. And perhaps there's been some separations as well, because Mars can be separation. But yeah, I just feel like we're going to be getting, once Mars goes direct on the 23rd, we're going to start to maybe not smooth things out there, but just sort of move forward, essentially, with anything with business partnerships, one-on-one romantic relationships, roommates, best friend, wherever we've been feeling this sort of sticky energy with partnership and relationship. Also, seventh house can be our contractual agreements as well. Because seventh house can be formal and contractual agreements. So it's maybe so that might also be relevant for you as well. Mars is going to go on April 19th. It's going to go into Leo. So it's going to be revisiting your eighth house of finances, of shared financial commitments, other people's money and backing, as well as kind of buried emotional things. So remember that Mars went retrograde originally here on December 6th. So we're going to be maybe revisiting some topics. Maybe we were questioning things related to taxes, loans, credit cards, any financial things where we're connected to other people's money. We're going to be kind of revisiting that. Maybe taking more ownership or maybe having more clarity on these topics, or just really kind of deciding what you are wanting to do with your money and where you're putting your energy. Mars going through this part of your chart too can also point you toward maybe some sort of buried emotional trauma too that you are having to deal with, or sort of buried emotional energy, because the eighth house can sort of be buried emotional energy. The eighth house can also, I think, be the intricacies of our, like the dynamics of our relationships as well. So it could be that we're sort of like working out like the detailed nuance of the emotions of our various relationships, kind of an extension of what we are doing with this Mars in retrograde, of this Mars in Cancer stuff in our seventh house. But I do feel in general, Mars going into Leo is an overall positive thing. There's more action and more energy to be made use of, and you're gonna have I think you're gonna have more vitality with Mars going into Leo. Especially because Mars can be an important planet for you, because it's your exaltation lord, it's a long story, but which I'm not going to get into. But Mars going direct in general, net positive for you. So Aquarius, rising. Mars is turning direct in your sixth house of health and work, and also pets. Maybe there's been frustration, delay, conflict, a lot of hyper focusing with work things, your work routines, maybe feeling dissatisfied with your work contracts, coworkers, people who work for you, what your job is, how you go about working or doing your job. There's been maybe some like inability to sort of push forward, or maybe like a lot of focus in this area, but just feeling like, oh my God, I just like, I can't get ahead here. This would be a time, if you're looking for a new job, to maybe start looking for one or putting your applications out there, or maybe you'll start to get those callbacks when it comes to work, and also being able to implement new work routines and things that are starting to kind of move forward as far as work. When it comes to health, maybe we've been feeling some snags in our physical health, maybe feeling a little bit more under the weather, or maybe our vitality has been suffering a little bit. Maybe we've been kind of struggling to sort of implement like a new health or exercise routine. Mars going direct, I think, is going to maybe give us some answers, or just help us to sort of get things sort of rolling in that department. Also, sixth house can occasionally be pets as well. So like dogs, cats, whatever. So maybe there's just been some extra issues like relating to pets too, and this should start to smooth out as Mars goes direct. Mars will be moving into Leo on April 19th. And remember that Mars originally went retrograde on December 6th when in Leo. So it's moving into your partnership sector. So perhaps you were starting to rethink relationships, your one-on-one partnerships and commitments around December 6th. Maybe feeling like a little bit dissatisfied, or just trying to figure out how to move forward in those matters. Mars going direct in Leo in your seventh house, I think, is going to make you feel more empowered on how to deal with your relationships, on who you want to relate to, on getting those commitments straightened out, essentially. So partnerships look really dynamic and active during that April 19th through mid-June time period, and you're really going to be kind of straightening out some things that that we really started questioning at the beginning of our Mercury retrograde story. Pisces rising, Mars is going to be turning direct in your 5th house. So maybe there's just been some sticky energy, frustrations, delays, conflicts, maybe a lot of this kind of bumpy energy concerning your romantic relationships and sexual relationships, or concerning your children, or anything related to pregnancy and childbirth. Also anything related to your creativity. Perhaps you've been feeling some sort of creative block or stuck energy relating to creativity. Maybe you've been kind of thinking about how to pursue your creativity or creative projects in a different way during this Mars retrograde, because Mars retrogrades can often be about trying something new and just sort of seeing what happens. Regardless, these things are going to start to get straightened out when Mars turns direct on February 23rd in that 5th house. Things will start to resolve, or you will get some more clarity, or going to be able to kind of move ahead on those things. Mars is going to go into your 6th house of health and work on April 19th and be there through mid-June. I remember that Mars originally stationed retrograde in Leo, so it would have stationed retrograde in your 6th house of your health, your physical health, exercise, and as well as like your job, your work, how you go about doing your work, what your work environment looks like, who your coworkers are, who your employees are. So that might be a time when you may be, maybe looking for a new job or seeking more work, or your work picks up for you. Maybe you'll be feeling like you really want to hit the gym or really start taking care of yourself more, and really be able to kind of see those 6th house matters that you maybe begin questioning in that beginning of December time period. And really hit those, you'll be able to sort of pursue those things or take action on those things with a lot more power and a lot more clarity. So getting work and health things in order is really kind of what I'm seeing for you, with Mars going into your 6th house from April 19th through mid-June. So that is what we have today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let me know maybe how you've been feeling this Mars retrograde. I'm so excited that Mars is getting direct. Thank God. So I hope this video was helpful to you. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment, and I will see you soon. Thanks, guys.